Hashim, CEO and founder of the award-winning Fashion Community Week. We are a business and marketing platform that offers support and opportunities for emerging global fashion designers and brands. We have been established since 2014 and have launched and represented brands from 60 countries now, covering 6 continents. Through our platform, presenting brands takes part in our exhibition, showroom, pop-up, shop, conference, and of course, our famous runway shows. In the year of 2020, we have launched as an online incubator to support fashion designers and brands. Our programs include one-on-one consulting services and workshops on brand launch and development, biannual conferences and occasional interview series with industry leaders, an e-boutique platform for our fashion designers to sell their hot off-the-runway collections, and finally, a virtual and on-site fashion week to offer exposure, PR, and marketing to our designers and brands. I would like to welcome you all to the final day of our 13th edition of Fashion Community Week. Today is our new era of digital fashion conference taking place in a form of panel discussion with 5 fashion industry leaders, joining us to share about their discoveries, expertise, and how they are impacting the future of the fashion industry. Joining us today is Jonathan Chippendale from Holition, Olga Chernysheva from DressX, Andrew Grogan from Instituto Marangoni, Didem Elialti from DI Fashion, Sean Morris from Caviar. Welcome to our new era of digital fashion conference, and thank you for joining us from different parts of the world today. I believe the speakers are joining us from New York, Paris, Milan, London, Istanbul, and I'm here in San Francisco, California. It is an absolute pleasure having you all on our panel today. Let us start with the introductions. For our panelists, Jonathan, would you like to go first?
Well, you've asked a question that I always hate being asked. Who are we? What are we doing? I mean, it sounds mad, but I always struggle to answer that question because, and I should know the answer because, you know, I created Holition 13 or 14 years ago now. But I guess the reason for that is that, you know, we operate at that kind of, in that fashion tech, retail tech sort of space, and that space is still changing and adapting and evolving, and it's incredibly difficult to understand what kind of work and projects we'll be doing in 6 months with our clients. And our clients are, I guess, the usual suspects up and down Bond Street and Place Vendôme and Ginza. We work with Louis Vuitton, we work with Chanel, we've got projects on the go at the moment for Burberry and Estee Lauder and Jo Malone, and you know, all of those projects are completely different. They all start from a completely different place, and the kinds of technologies and creative applications that we'll build for them are all entirely proprietary and bespoke. Some people call us creative technologists. I can understand that. We operate at that intersection between art and science, that kind of cultural middle zone, which I think is very important for us. We've been called digital anthropologists. I think that's because a lot of what we do is try and use technology to understand human behavior. And in some ways, the importance of what it means to be human, and we can talk a bit more about that. And then we apply that kind of humanized technology idea to all of the projects that we do for our clients. The Financial Times in London described us a few years back as what would happen if Willy Wonka built technology, which I think was a compliment, but I'm going to take it as a compliment. But I guess in short, what we do is look into the future and try and understand that relationship between human and technology into the future. So we're not constrained by limitations of hardware or clients' budgeting cycles. We think about the long-term applications, and then if we can understand that at a kind of granular level into the future, then we can replay that today in terms of what kinds of directions, what kinds of technologies, and what kinds of conversations should brands be having with their customer base today. So that's kind of, I think, what we do in rather a big nutshell.
Thank you so much. Olga, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for having me. So I'm Olga, and I'm Chief Sustainability Officer at DressX. And DressX is the largest fashion store for the digital-only collections from well-known brands and 3D designers. Our main goal is to provide a sustainable and yet fun alternative to the traditional physical fashion industry by providing a digital garments, a digital wardrobe. So at the moment, what we propose to our clients is a fitted photo looks, which you can get from our website. But just recently we launched our app where every user can get an instant AR look, which can be shared straight away all across the social media, all across all the platforms. And yeah, the way how DressX was built is to create, like I say, a sustainable way for the fashion industry to decrease the amount of the physical items and to replace with the digital alternatives.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Olga. Andrew, would you like to go next?
I'm located here in Paris, France. So bonjour or bonsoir, I guess you would say it right now, where it is right now. I used to live in San Francisco. I work a lot of different startups from there, and I started a digital agency called Elephantly. I made myself here, available in Paris, France. Worked with a lot of different fashion brands, and eventually worked with Istituto Marangoni, which is a fashion business school here from Italy, but also has a big campus here in Paris, which I just came from this evening and arrived here on time. So it's a very interesting time, with digital strategy, which is what I teach. I teach a digital strategy for a master's class. It's always changing, which is an amazing experience, which I always get a joy out of because I'm from a web development, digital strategy background, and it's fun to see the balance between fashion, keeping up with digital, and I'm happy to be here, happy to give my point of view on things.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Didem, would you like to go next?
Hi, iyi akşamlar from Istanbul means good evening. And we are a multi-brand showroom named under the fashion branding, located in Istanbul. We present diverse range of many designers, like emerging designer, established designer in luxury and contemporary market. And we offer our client customized services that enables them to establish their brand and express their vision, their mentality and philosophy. And of course, we are working with international brands and help their transition into the Turkish market, where our main goal is try to find sale points and sale market to our Turkish designers and Turkish brands.
Thank you, Didem. Sean, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure. My name is Sean Morris. I am a co-founder here at Caviar. While we're headquartered in New York, we are a global network for creatives within the fashion, beauty, and art industry, specifically around photography and the teams it takes to create that type of like editorial quality, high quality photography. We also have agencies that use us, publishers. We have over 600 media companies that use us to source talent, source content, sell advertising. We have over 200 or just about 200,000 industry professionals that use us as well to get published, network, work with agencies, and so on. One of the things that's unique about us is that we have a network. A lot of people think of us as like a publishing platform or submission platform. Caviar has a network where people just like, essentially like I'd call it like a LinkedIn for creative professionals, where it's fully curated. You have to get approved to be part of it. So that's kind of one of the unique things about us.
Well, thank you so much for all the introductions about what you do. And of course, I would like to dive in and have more I have this conversation with you about your companies. Well, I would like to start with DressX, of course. Now, replacing the existing multi-brand e-commerce experience with solely digital clothing, DressX provides a unique experience where shoppers can purchase garments in the form of an image of themselves wearing the item. At the point of purchase, the shopper uploads a photo of themselves onto which digital garment is placed, ready for them to share online. Walk us through the challenges that you face weaving in this technology with fashion.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, like you said, what we provide to the customers is that we provide a digital look. So when the customer chooses its look on the website, it provides his or her photo, and within 24 hours, we provide this photo back dressed with the new digital look. At the moment, this is quite a new sector, a young industry within the fashion. And can you imagine that the amount of the orders we will start to have with this industry developing and growing, and the amount of the orders are going to pop up? So 24 hours for one order is quite a long time. So let's say for like that. So we want, one of the challenges with the technology is we want to decrease this amount of time and to be able to treat as much orders in the short period of time, but at least keep the same level of the quality and even going further with the quality. So this is one of the challenges we're facing now with technology. So it's the artificial intelligence which should to be developed, or any other techniques. And I guess the second mission what we have is to create the digital wardrobe for the people. So when they want to participate in the video calls or to dress something and to post a new content on the social media, we want to propose them a digital wardrobe. So the user has it on cell phone and can use it straight away. So at the moment we don't have that technology to be able to build it and to share all across all the digital platforms where we are presenting. And this is the second challenge where we are working right now.
Wow. I mean, I must tell you, Olga, everyone is talking about DressX at the moment. Any city I visit, DressX, it is the technology. Everybody is using DressX, especially obviously this is a haven for Instagrammers. You know,
Thank you.
It's a great concept. I am just excited to learn more about DressX today. Well, now I want to direct my conversation with Holition. Now, there are a group of experts such as mathematicians, scientists, and technologists at Holition has crafted premium digital experiences for a growing network of some pioneering brands. Some, of course, you have mentioned earlier that are in luxury and fashion industry. That includes Richemont, LVMH, Kering, and Coty. Now, what are the benefits these conglomerates are experiencing by utilizing the services of Holition?
Well, now we're getting into the sort of difficult territory about KPIs, and I mean, one of the things that we've learned not to our cost, but I guess all entrepreneurs in this fashion tech space have learned over the last few years is that brands haven't really, well, they're changing now, but it took a long time for brands to sort of reorganize themselves to understand what digital meant and what technology meant, and particularly what the word innovation meant, because by definition innovation is new, it's never been done before. But brands have typically measured their investments using KPI models that are about sales of lipsticks or sales of dresses, and if it's never been done before, there is no data to be done. We did the first ever use of AR worn on the body technology, which was back in 2008. I think we did watches for Tissot in those days that you could wear on your hand. Right. And then we did the first beauty virtual try-on technology. And I remember going to Macy's in New York and showing them the technology about 7 years ago. And this was before L'Oreal launched Makeup Genius, which went on to have 36 million downloads. So technology that was in the future to be proven to be a real game changer, although that's a word I hate because it's used so many times for lots of different things. But it was interesting that Macy's was saying that this is brilliant, we love it, we absolutely love it. How many more lipsticks will we sell? and no one knew because it hadn't been done before. It hadn't been launched. There wasn't no data, but they wouldn't invest in anything unless they knew. They were using old-fashioned, sort of habits to try and evaluate technology. I mean, in many ways, innovation or investing in innovation reminds me a little bit of that scene in Indiana Jones where he asks, it's time to ask yourself what you believe in. And a lot of innovation when it comes to clients is about belief. So I don't know fully what the benefits are. All I know is that our clients keep coming back for more. So there is a benefit. It's just a question of whether you can tie that down into sales and returns in the work that we do. And I guess probably because a lot of the work that we do is commissioned and financed more by the marketing teams than the merchandise teams. Merchandise teams have a margin they have to hit. They're all into the figures, and they will invest in technology if they're pretty certain that will increase their sales and therefore make their margin. But marketing teams can put money on kind of punts. So, when I think back over some of the projects that we've done over the last few years, they're all fundamentally different. We've done virtual fashion shows for brands like Burberry and brands like Dunhill. We've done data visualization art pieces for brands like Farfetch and List. We produced a dress that was in London Fashion Week about 4 years ago that had a brief about mental health and self-image. The British Fashion Council wanted to talk about issues in the fashion industry, which are still unfortunately very prevalent, about abuse and stress, and also that dystopian place where digital perfection kind of clashes with kind of the physical reality of not living up to that hype and driving issues of low esteem and potentially self-harm and kind of worse. So they want to talk about that. And we built a dress that scans the mind of the wearer in real time and uses that data to understand mood and emotion, and then changes colors and patternation according to how the person's feeling. These kind of slightly unusual pieces, clothing for Hermes that changes color according to the air quality of the person that's walking in Paris. It was done in Paris, and 40 items, each reporting back every 3 hours to Hermes, the color and the location. And therefore we could build up a map of air quality in Paris. These kinds of slightly different projects don't have a kind of benefit other than PR, yeah, maybe. Yes, some sales, but also I think that important sort of personality uplift for a brand trying to explore what being digital means, and particularly in the luxury space where most of those brands are heritage brands, and the kind of building blocks of their DNA are about craftsmanship and heritage and provenance. And I think they've struggled, maybe less so now, but in the early days of what does being modern and digital mean for a legacy brand that's been steeped in the tradition of making leather craft and saddles. So I think what we do is basically offer brands other types of tools that they can deploy, other types of tools in the toolbox, which actually talk more about their personality and their culture, maybe less about their product, but more about their attitude. And I think that's one of the biggest impacts of digital now. I mean, I'm a luxury marketing director, an analog luxury marketing director, and the brands that I used to work for, we used to talk at consumers. We used to shout at consumers. We held the control of all of the message. But in today's world, that kind of one message brand, a logo, a product, and a store feels kind of odd and trite and just crass. I mean, brands now are, to use a horrible phrase, multifaceted. You can pick brands up and you can turn them around and you can explore their views on ethics and product and culture and art and music. And, like humans, brands are becoming more like human beings with and they're different things to different people at different times. I think the work that we do allows brands to explore a more human side of their personality, a less commercial side. So again, what is the benefit of that? It makes them feel more rounded, it makes them feel more human, and and ultimately they keep coming back. So I'm happy at that. As long as they keep doing that, then we're doing something right, and there is some benefit, even if it's a bit intransferable.
Well, thank you so much for sharing, Jonathan. Of course, we're so adhered to using everything digitally that at the end of the day, we're still looking for something that's human-like. We are not robots. And it is great to see that, what Holition is doing is basically humanizing the experience especially in this industry, in fashion
I
industry?
mean, just to add on to that, I mean, some of the technologies that I find that are really, really powerful, the stuff that's really, really life-changing is, I mean, the irony about them is that in many ways they disappear, they kind of hide themselves. And think about your mobile phone, you know, my mobile phone's now integrated itself into my life. I mean, it's got everything on it. I always know where it is. It's the first thing I look at in the morning. It's the last thing I look at night. And what I find so interesting about it is that in many ways, it helps me understand more about what it means to be human. You know, I find my information through my phone, and I appreciate algorithms and echo chambers and the irony of having perfect access to the internet, but algorithms funneling it down so that I see what I want to see. I get that, but the way I interact with the world, not just at a factual level, but at a human level, I look at my friends' social media feeds, I get a sense as to how they're feeling. They do the same for me. And ultimately, it helps me understand more about what it means to be human, although it is an abstract piece of technology. That's a kind of holy grail that we at Halition are always seeking.
Well, thank you so much, Jonathan, for adding on and sharing a bit more. But of course, we're going to come back to you for more conversation about Holition. Now, I have some questions for Andrew. Now, Andrew, you have worked with some prominent startups in the digital tech world here in Silicon Valley when the tech industry started booming. And recently working with some notables in the industry such as Spike Lee, Noor Hammour, and the Air Jordan designer Louis Lee. And since 5 years now, you are a professor of digital strategy at Instituto Morangoni. Share with us on what type of transitions and changes you have noticed in the digital fashion space from the time you have started versus now.
Well, thank you. Well, first of all, I mean, it was great to hear from Jonathan there. And I have definitely things to say about humanity, being a human, you know, authenticity, that really hit home. And of course, mental health. I actually work with several brands that are surrounded by mental health. And when I dive into your question right here, it's going to have a lot to do with this. One of the things I've noticed, you know, in the last few years, and especially the last year and a half that we've all witnessed, is that I would say, you know, we're always keeping up with digital. So one of the items that I always introduce to my class, which is kind of old school, and I bring it up, and a lot of them, you know, they're in their 20s, sometimes, you know, 18 to 27 or 28, depending on the class. I start my class with a quote or a lyric, I guess you could say, by Bob Dylan. And a lot of times you wonder why I'm bringing up a Bob Dylan lyric when it comes to digital. But the quote is, well, I changed the quote slightly, and you understand why. Because a lot of my students are female at a fashion business school, but it's he or she not busy being born is busy dying. I start every class with that. And I go around and ask them what they think of it. They all have different answers because the first day of class, some are a little nervous. But I do a lot. I think about this quote a lot when it comes to brands that I work with, especially. What I think it's about is, you know, keeping up with what we're talking about today is digital. And a lot of times, if you don't keep up with it, your brand's going to die. So it's about he or she not busy be born is busy dying. So either reinvent yourself, keeping up with the times. That's what I think it's about. It's something magical that I see. Like, I love it when it comes true, like within a semester of class. Like this last semester, it was amazing. For the last few years, there's a lot of items in digital I bring up, especially something called, as you all know, it's called TikTok. You might laugh about that, as many kids did at first. And over the years, they finally got it. And this year, at the beginning, they would laugh at it and say it's just for dancing. That's definitely for kids. And I love how things change and how we have to keep up with it. And TikTok is a perfect example. I know you guys already heard Instagram me mention. I'm just so happy that Instagram is going to be overtaken by TikTok. And I love it. The reason I love it is because we all get used to doing something and we're like perfect at it. We get our Instagram game down. We got everything going on with brands, especially. because brands are like, take a little time to move on to the next platform. And I love seeing this because it's just another example of, you know, keeping up. Never, you know, when you have friends, you know, you have parents, you know how parents are, they get a little older and they're set in their ways. That's called getting old. And for me, keep on learning. Never stop learning. Never judge a platform. See where the attention is. And it's exactly what happened right here. TikTok is blowing up. It's an amazing spot for brands. And we just saw it even in the last few months in this class. It's amazing to see young kids actually adapt to it, understand why it's valuable. And I think that's like probably the best thing I learned, you know, digital, staying young. You got to stay young. You got to keep up with it. And I think that's like the prime example right there.
Thank you so much, Andrew. So we'll have to remember keeping young, even though we're getting old.
I mean, I could go on and on about Bob Dylan quotes. It could be forever young. There's a lot of things you could say, but there's a lot of, it's really what it's all about.
Thank you so much, Andrew, for sharing with us. Now, I wanted to direct my conversation with Sean from Caviar. Now, Sean, it is quite impressive what Caviar has achieved in such a short period of time, housing a large library of fashion media under its umbrella. In fact, you have become one of the leading networks in the fashion industry. Tell us the advantage that you are offering as a digital medium that a print fashion media cannot offer to fashion conglomerates and independent brands.
So, but yeah, you said a short period of time. It's not felt like that at all. Just ask my wife. But you know, we're moving in the right direction at least. But you know, I think that Caviar is a little different than the traditional tech companies, where you use words like disruption and you try to basically write lines of code to destroy industries and replace people. Caviar is a lot more collaborative. We look at the industry and we see what people do, and we have a healthy respect for the roles that people have. You know, we're not competing against print or media. We're not a disruptive platform. We're a collaborative platform where we want people to build their businesses on top of. We can't write a line of code, for instance, to replace maybe a model scout and the 30 years experience they have evaluating talent. We can't write a line of code to replace a fashion editor at a print magazine who curates, validates, is a tastemaker, influencer. So what we do is we kind of look at the whole industry. We look at those roles, we embed with those people, and then we figure out exactly like what they do, and we write lines of code to make them more efficient and strip down all the things that they're typically doing, especially now as we have industry shifts. They're typically doing a lot of things they don't need to do, that we can write lines of code to make them more efficient, streamlined, and then focus on their actual contribution value they provide to the industry. So if we do this, you know, our goal is to be a responsible tech company and impact the industry as a whole in a positive way, and not a way that's not sustainable. So to kind of answer your question, the digital medium versus, you know, like a tech company like ours versus a print fashion medium, it's just a format. And what we do is we leverage the awesome power of technology, the network effect, and all the things that come with that to make everybody better and to make a more equitable space for people to interact and to, you know, get discovered and have more success.
Thank you so much, Sean, for sharing. And of course, I would like to further my conversation with you about Caviar. I've got a lot of questions. Maybe some of them I have to take offline. Now I'd like to speak with Didem from DI Fashion. Now, Didem, you have had a great trajectory in the fashion industry, working for Fashion TV for many years, to having your own fashion label and starting a successful showroom presenting contemporary and luxury fashion brands, as you have mentioned earlier. Now, I'm sure when you started the showroom, things were promising in terms of offering opportunities such as attracting foot traffic of buyers and, of course, in-house showroom events. Since last year, you had to change your practices dramatically due to the pandemic. Now, what are you doing to cope and transition to fit the current times, to have a digital approach to help your in-house showroom designers and, of course, attract new brands into your showroom as well?
Mm-hmm. And first of all, my fashion TV background was my golden years that made me who I am in broadcasting, in fashion, and all things in fashion PR. And if I'm having fun in this job, it is because of difficulties and accumulation from those periods. And first of all, we provide products for social media sharing to leading crowds in a TV series, magazine shootings, and bloggers and influencers. This is what we are doing in general. And we used to do all of our presentation in our showroom by hosting stylists, celebrities, and bloggers. And when the pandemic started, and we closed our doors like everyone. In Turkey, it's about all industry. They all shut down over 1 month. But just we are as PR showroom opened our doors after just 1 month. Because in Turkey, in terms of TV series, films, or magazine shootings, none of them came to stop. Somehow they all continued. They all got the permissions to go. So this was dangerous, and I didn't invite my assistants into the showroom. And yeah, I couldn't do that. So I just came into the showroom and open the door to everyone and do the job, do everything by myself. At that time period, I saw that I can do that, I didn't have to have thousands of assistants. And I did everything by myself. And after a while, I invite my assistant back, and things got to normal. People started to come like nothing's happening, everything's got normal. But some people never show up again. And when they don't want to come, okay, we respect that, of course. We just have our designers lookbook and send them by email or WhatsApp, and try to make them choose what they want into their TV series or their, social media sharing, anything else. And they choose it, and we just ship them. So we got a result then, because the only thing we have to do is present our designers collection. So we don't have to be face to face all the time. And I like that part, because I don't want to see everyone all the time. Yeah, because you feel stressed, or you can feel unhappy about your personal life, anything else going on. And I don't want to be like wearing my happy face all the time. I'm not that kind of person. And yeah, so I like this system to see people. Yeah, I like this part. And also there are a lot of people like that we've collaborated for over a year. We never seen each other, and I don't think I'll see them in 1 or 2 years again. And it's okay. It's okay for them, and it's okay for us too.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much about this.
Thank you so much, Didem. I think we're all trying to adhere to, obviously, when the digital, when the world of digital has become such a prominent, has taken such a prominent place in our lives of how we do business. On top of that, now having to live through the pandemic, I think we've all become we all had to find new ways, just how you found your new way to basically present your physical showroom into still keeping your business and also, you know, keeping your clients, and also probably bringing a small and having the understanding of who are your real clients, and then probably
Right.
rid of the ones that just visited the showroom. So maybe this is a good time to also know, also have your actual list of whom you are going to work with in the future. Well, great. Thank you so much, Didem. Now I want to, of course, divert my conversation back to, let me see, DressX. Okay, Olga. Let me see, what can I ask you? Okay, see, here's one element I was reading in, you know, Vogue Business, which basically talked about, with the spate of recent pilots and investments, realistic AR clothing is getting closer to reality, and the pace of acceleration is increasing. For fashion brands, this could unlock digital clothing sales, increase conversions, and decrease e-commerce returns. As a digital-only fashion platform, do you think fashion industry visionaries are reinventing?
Of course, we are changing. We're changing what's happening in the fashion industry. And if we are going to talk about modern consumption in fashion industry, it has different layers. So our customers don't want to buy new clothes. Maybe some of them want to switch to more conscious and sustainable ways of shopping. So they started to think about secondhand options, or maybe renting. So digital fashion is another level, is another layer of how the modern consumption can be, can look like. And of course, it's changing the business models. It's taking some part of the physical fashion, and actually one of the missions of DressX is to replace at least 1% of the physical items produced by the digital items. And yeah, all the brands, they need to adjust to that. We can see different cases, like what we had just recently. We collaborate with Farfetch, and there is a capsule collection, a pre-ordered collection, including such looks from Balenciaga and Off-White, when this collection hasn't been produced physically yet. So DressX did the digitalization of all the looks. We dressed all the influencers for the marketing campaign. And so it's you can see this collection, you can see the marketing about it, but the garments will be produced on demand. Does it changing the fashion industry? Does it change the business model? Of course it's changing, yeah. The brands decrease the costs on the marketing, on the sampling, on the shipping to the influencers, and also it's decreasing the cost on the production of the garments, which won't be sold in the end of the season. Another example is NFTs. Yeah, it started to pop up at the beginning of this year together with digital fashion. And we can see just recent release of the very beautiful NFT collection called Dolce & Gabbana. Right. So all the digital looks are in NFT. At DressX, we also have our NFT drops, and what we do is we have a contract behind those drops when the person who buys or who gets that NFT can be dressed by DressX team in this digital garment. Right. So we are coming back to our app. Instead of going into and buying a new piece of clothes to create a content, you can go to our DressX app, you can choose an AR look, and you can get the instant fun and sustainable look, which you can post straight away all across your social media. So definitely it's a new way, it's a new modern consumption, and it's definitely changing the fashion industry and any other industry.
Right. But I mean, really, I see from the time DressX had started, it's just a year, right?
Yes, that's right.
Like so long, because there are so many changes in such a short period of time, that DressX is really a great example for keeping up with the current times, really. So bravo, really.
Thank you. We're keeping our pace, yeah, and creating more use cases
Right.
to show to everyone that digital fashion has so many opportunities. You just need to take this wave and move with it.
Right, you're definitely an example for that. Well, thank you so much for
Thank you.
sharing with us about it. Now, I had a quick question for Andrew. Andrew, you are currently, following back with the conversation with Olga, I thought I would ask you that you are currently working on creating a digital platform for the iconic Florence Deschamps showroom. Now, it is such a transition for the showroom itself. Now, do share with us briefly, what does this particular digital platform entails, and how will it help fashion brands?
Great, thank you. Yes, it's a great opportunity because, well, again, it's always changing, and it's really cool to hear from you guys too how quickly things have changed, especially in the last year. It's kind of like digital got on steroids, just went nuts lately, but it's fun to see. So what I would say with the showroom, we're doing our second year now, and this version, it kind of follows like everything else in digital that we follow, and I've heard a few of you speaking before, and we're going to follow this time with being like more more authenticity, or human, I guess you could say. And this way we're going to have the designers not only give their showroom with all the different looks, like so they could showcase their brand, but also as the designer themselves, they could actually give a story, give more of a story platform to the buyers. So they have we're building a platform where they can do that almost like a social media, but private, just to the buyers and the designers. So it's a one-on-one experience to get to know them and know their story. Using video, of course, which is of course jumped 70% in the last year. We all want to see something more engaging, and if we can't see each other in person, what a great experience. You either set up a video with them, or even give themselves an opportunity to tell their story in a story format. What I mean by that is exactly what we see every day. We're all swiping through Instagram stories, or maybe we're on TikTok, or whatever it is. Everything is engaging, full screen opportunities to meet that designer, get to know more about it, because that's really what it's about right now, because we don't have a chance to see people. Now is the time to like give that story across in the most authentic way possible. And I think the cool part is that these brands are kind of like startups in a way, and the cool thing that happened, nothing great really happened during the COVID experience, but of course also some things did happen that were nice, where we're all on the same platform, we're at the same level. You don't need to make something overproduced. You actually make something more authentic that delivers to the buyers, delivers to the people that are introduced to the brand, and it really makes an impact. So that's what we're working on right now with the Florence Deschamps showroom.
Thank you so much for sharing. Definitely, the way we, back in my time, when we worked with showrooms, has changed drastically, and in a way for the better, because now we can do everything online, and save the time of traveling and actually visiting a physical showroom, and basically making our choices. Now we can actually take time to do everything digitally. So it's great what you're doing for Florence Deschamps. Bravo, Andrew. Now let me see. I want to speak with Jonathan. So let me see, what can I ask you? Well, the award-winning Holitions creative technology projects bring audiences closer to brands, connecting digital to retail by delivering memorable retail experiences online, in-store, and through mobile. Holition shapes the future of consumer experiences in the fashion industry by humanizing technology. Now, do you think newest technology advancements, such as, of course, virtual try-on and 3D configuration technologies, are driving e-commerce today? I mean, you can tell us some of the things that you are doing with your current brands.
Well, I mean, I guess the answer is yes and no. I mean, yes and well. Actually, first of all, I'd love to pick up on what I'd like to pick up on Andrew's Dylan quotes, because I completely just very briefly agree with everything there. I mean, we've always had very, very close links to academia. I'm a visiting professor at London College of Fashion and Central St Martin's. We've got very close link. All of our data and maths team come out of Brown. We work with Parsons. And initially, I was really interested in talking to students, almost as a long-range radar, to try and understand what kind of attitudes and thoughts, future generations who will become consumers in the next couple of years were sort of having. But we ended up then employing pretty well, almost always, kids out of university, because I had a rule quite early on that I would never hire, although we work in luxury fashion and beauty, I would never hire anyone that had worked in luxury fashion and beauty. And I'm being very unfair here, but I didn't want to hire someone that had been corporately and institutionalized to always say no. And I love that magic of serendipity when I get a mathematician, a computer scientist, and a filmmaker into a room, and we throw this room perhaps, and we throw in a brief from Chanel, and what we get is wrong. But it's left field and it's interesting, and because I come from that world, I can maneuver it in onto where I think the appetite for innovation lies. Always trying to think out of the box, and I think you get that from youth. And as Andrew was saying, I mean, as I get older and I lose more and more hair, I find wonderfully that I'm learning more and more. And actually, in some ways, I've got the experience, but they've got the relevance. And in some ways, that's what kind of keeps me engaged here. In terms of the question you asked, I mean, we can maybe talk about it in terms of COVID and the impact of COVID on the kind of work that we were doing. Because, I don't know, pre-COVID, maybe 60% of our work had a physical aspect, taking digital into physical spaces and using digital tools to inform or educate or inspire or motivate, but in a physical context, whether it's a show window or the Guggenheim in Bilbao or a fashion show, wherever that was. A little bit of what we were doing with pure play digital, but when COVID hit and we all started tumbling down the well and no one knew what was going to happen, physical stopped. And it was interesting for me because all of these sort of our luxury and our fashion, to a less extent our beauty brands, but still beauty brands, they spent generations and decades, centuries explaining the brand through the physicality of the store, the thickness of the carpet, the design of the windows, the service that was in store, the products that you could pick up and feel, and everything was about the physical store. And digital and websites and e-commerce was a kind of thing they had to tolerate and invest in heavily, but it was all actually about the physical store. And when there were padlocks on the store and no one could get into those stores, they were all shut. What was the response? And what was wonderful and ironic was we started to get lots of conversations with brands who were saying, people can't get into my physical store. Can you recreate my physical store online? And we weren't interested in that because, what is the point of just recreate? I mean, Gucci asked us whether we'd recreate their Milan store, which is a beautiful store. I love that store. But what's the point of having this empty space, this physical store? You've got all of the negativity of the physical space without any of the kind of wonderful stuff about smell and sound and talking to people and feeling that you're in a social environment with lots of other people. So we said no, and actually I was looking at Gucci virtual store and it's got no one in it. It looks like aliens have landed and everyone's run off and disappeared, and it lacks humanity to go back. Just to go back, it lacks presence and humanity. So we then started doing lots of these types of projects, but trying to blur or blend that physical space with digital space and use digital content and creativity to kind of quote unquote augment that physical space. So you ended up with a kind of third space retail. I mean, maybe we should call it the metaverse because that's the other hot thing that people talk about. So these metaverse spaces where you could try and capture the best of digital and try and transpose that into the best of physical. And we've been doing a whole series of these kind of projects for Jo Malone, and we've got a big one for Estee Lauder coming out, which I think are really interesting. And they allow people to, they allowed us to animate and to draw in a physical space. They allowed us to open doors of showrooms, but walk into blossom orchards, and just different types of slightly unusual, unexpected experiences. And what I hope, as we come out of the pandemic and start heading back into stores, that actually the pendulum just won't go back to what it used to be, which was physical stores, clear water, digital realms, but actually some of the creativity that's been driven by necessity out of the pandemic starts to come back into the physical store. So physical store can start to be a more creative place than just somewhere where you go and try on product or kind of pick up product. So that's why we're sort of quite interested in at the moment, whether actually the creativity goes all the way around and doesn't just kind of go back to where it was. That's an area that's of interest to us.
Right, I definitely agree with you. A store shouldn't be just a storefront to just go and shop. It's, people are looking for other interesting aspects, and I think a lot of the brick and mortars are doing a comeback with a lot of creativeness to it. Of course, there are quite a few things we are coming across ourselves, and projects that are coming our way that are quite interesting, which I'm happy to see actually next season. So let me see, we are getting close to our time, and I wanted to speak with Sean about visibility. Now, being completely online, Sean, having visibility is the utmost important element for all fashion brands. In the past, there were, of course, many ways to get visibility, such as in-person press previews, showroom presentation, and daily in-person interactions with clients and new opportunities. Now, in the recent years, in this type of in-person visibility has curbed, and there is an immense focus on having digital presence. With that switch in the industry, how do you bring personalization to the digital world to have at least similar effectiveness of the in-person experience into the virtual world? Basically, carrying on the conversation after Jonathan.
Yeah, well, let's see if I can do it justice. Yeah, so I'm old enough to remember a time before there was a computer in every household. So I think for me, I still kind of value and maybe romanticize the in-person experience. But if you look at the past and history and trends, there was a time when you used to write with a pen. Then there was a time when you typed with a keyboard. Now we use a glass screen on a phone to type and communicate. And every single time we did that change, everyone said, well, how do you recreate the feel of the pen in your hand scratching on paper? How do you recreate the tactile feel of a keyboard? And my personal feeling is you don't ever have to do that. However, there is, I think people change, people adapt.
Sure.
They're right. And the things that today we feel are awesome and you can't recreate or anything like that, like a phone call, for instance, is a much better way to communicate and to pass information than texting. But what do people want to do? Texting, right? Like my mom calls the heck out of me all the time, and I'm like, that's not phone call worthy, Mom. Text me, right? So I think, I think when you're doing product development, it's very much a moving target.
Right.
So I think when you are doing, when you're building something and trying to add this personalization, what you do is maybe divide that up in facets and start to figure out exactly what's happening in that interaction. So that's our product development approach. So there are things you're going to lose. When you're in person, you're feet away from each other, the conversation, the communication level there, you might lose 5x on that when you start to move to technology or a technology platform or something like that. Yeah. There might be 4 other facets, though, that are happening within that interaction. You might be able to, in those 4 other facets, 20x, 100x, or more, improve those things. So is that experience better or worse if you multi-100x for the 5 things and you lose this one thing. So that's like a big thing for us when we're starting to build things, and we're looking at like, can we improve the experience? And if I look at like this, for example, this exact conversation, you have a panel of people scattered around the world. Couldn't do this in person, right? It might be impossible for you to do this. And even, I think in person is limited. Like it can be costly, lining up schedules, just things that are impossible. I look at our platform and I see people that are passing ideas and creativity and all kinds of collaboration stuff that are in Russia with people in New York or London. And this happens all the time. And one of the really cool things that I see is that like there could be somebody in a really tiny, small town that no one's ever heard of that's incredibly talented. Whereas years ago, them going and collaborating with somebody in New York is as easy as them going to the moon. But now that stuff happens all the time. And those, and even, we've talked about in person when it has to happen, we're like our platform deals with teams coming together and having collaboration. The technology facilitates in-person interactions and meetings. You get to get more in more people's faces. You get your stuff exposed and found more often. If you look at brands too today, like I'm buying brands I've never heard of, and I would have never ever heard of without technology, like that are getting to me. Like it's like there are way more paths to success. Everything is about democratization now that technology has lowered the barrier to entry. So just kind of a long, windy answer here. You might not need to. Right. You should try, but you might not need to.
That's possibly right. Exactly. I will. Thank you so much for the long, windy answer. But we've all learned a lot and agree to some of the elements that you're sharing. So we've got no time left, but there is one question I wanted to throw out there, which is always a general question, and just wanted to see a perspective from one person. What I want to ask you about your prediction that the fashion industry, prediction about the fashion industry and what it will look like in the coming years, especially in a post-COVID world. Didem, you want to go? Because you didn't have enough time to speak with us today.
Yes, actually, I have one answer about this. Today, we do no longer promotion launches for our designers or brands. And we got the idea that we have the hanger and we select 10 pieces, 10 star pieces from the collection of them and send them as a gift to stylists, bloggers, and influencers, and make them wear and make them share through the social media. And this is like no budget, for them. And everybody can save money, and everybody can give their budget to the online and digital commercials, at that time. Yes, this is what I've been thinking these days, and I don't know if it is gonna continue by doing this, but this is so affordable, and every brand can do this. They just need hanger and boss,
Thank you so much, Didem, for sharing that with us. Now, we've come to the conclusion of our conference today, and with 5 brilliant industry leaders. Thank you for joining us and sharing about your work and expertise with us. I would also like to thank our audience for joining in to be part of the closing day of the 13th season of our Fashion Week. Now, if you have missed the last 3 days of our on-site and virtual events, you can watch the replays this week. For details, replays, and for future Fashion Community Week events, visit visit our Instagram, Facebook, and website at Fashion Community Week. We look forward to seeing you all at the 14th season of Fashion Community Week. And again, thank you so much for joining us. And it was so lovely to converse with you today about digital fashion. Thank you.